So we will call the April 5th Environmental Commission meeting to order at 7 p.m. Roll call, and I don't know everyone's name yet. So do we do the roll call before we do minutes? Or before we do the oath?
You could do the roll call. You could just call people you know, and everyone else, because everyone could just state their name, and then, you know, for the minutes, everyone would you could just go right down the line and state your name, everyone.
Okay. So
We'll know who's here.
I think it's on automatically, right?
Yes.
Oh, so you can't talk?
So it's on automatically, but if you press the button where it says push,
Yeah.
that turns the microphone off.
Oh,
So you don't have to touch anything.
oh,
It's all recorded. It's all there's.
so don't talk bad about anybody?
Well, you can. It's happened before. So right there's the cameras being recorded by video. It's being recorded by microphone, and then they do. Shannon will listen to the audio, and she will make the minutes based off the audio. The minutes are really just a summary.
Yep.
The official documentation is the audio and video. Is the official.
Okay.
But the minutes are just really summary. But if anybody wants the official, it's the audio.
Okay.
Okay. So we can just go right down the line. Everyone say their name.
I'm Shantanu Pahi.
Lynn Tansing,
Virginia Schmidt,
Chuck Bonacci?
Crystal Davis,
Sandra Baines.
And David Post. Okay. So now we will do the oath of office right now. So I'll call you up one at a time. I'll just go right in order as Shannon has laid it out here. And then you guys can come up here and become official. So exciting. All right, so Sandra, you're first. We'll go right down the line. If you just got to stand right up here. And then you'll raise your right hand, and then you'll just repeat after me. This is very tricky. So, I, Sandra Baines,
I, Sandra Baines,
do hereby swear
do hereby swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution and laws
the Constitution and laws
of the United States of America,
of the United States of America,
the Constitution and laws of the State of Ohio,
the Constitution and laws of the State of Ohio,
the Charter, ordinances, and resolutions
the Charter, ordinances, and resolutions
of the City of Twinsburg, Ohio,
of the City of Twinsburg, Ohio,
and will faithfully, honestly, and impartially
and will faithfully, honestly, and impartially
discharge the duties as a member of the Environmental Commission
discharge the duties as a member of the Environmental Commission
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability.
as I shall answer to God.
As I shall answer to God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Now I'm gonna hand you this. Like, if you could sign both of those, and then you can sign both those, hand it back, one back to me. Actually, hand them both back to me, and then I'll sign both of them, and then I'll give you one back. All right. Chuck Bonacci, come on down.
It's good to meet you today.
So if you just want to sign both of those. Chuck Bonacci, you got this?
I got this.
I, Chuck Bonacci,
I, Chuck Bonacci, do solemnly
do hereby swear
do hereby swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution and laws
the Constitution and laws
of the United States of America,
of the United States of America,
the Constitution and laws of the State of Ohio,
the Constitution and laws of the State of Ohio,
the Charter, ordinances, and resolutions
the Charter, ordinances, and resolutions
of the City of Twinsburg, Ohio,
of the City of Twinsburg, Ohio,
and will faithfully, honestly, and impartially
and will faithfully, honestly, and impartially
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
as a member of the Environmental Commission
as a member of the Environmental Commission
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
as I shall answer to God.
as I shall answer.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Nice job. These are for you to sign both of these. And this is your copy. You can take those back to there. Or I guess you just sign them here. Fine. And then Sean today. Come on down. Perfect.
Gotta be slow
I will go real slow.
because, I've been up since 4 working, so.
4 o'clock. Wow. I was not. I
I,
Was that good?
Not that slow.
Not that slow, come on.
Oh, that's funny. How do you pronounce your last one?
Pahi.
Pahi. Okay, I, Shantanu Pahi,
I, Shantanu Pahi,
do hereby swear
hereby swear
that I will support
I will support
and defend
and defend
the Constitution and laws
the Constitution and laws
of the United States of America,
of the United States of America,
the Constitution and laws
the Constitution and laws
of the State of Ohio,
of the State of Ohio,
the Charter,
the Charter,
ordinances,
ordinances,
and resolutions
and resolutions
of the City of Twinsburg, Ohio,
of the City of Twinsburg, Ohio.
and I will faithfully,
I will faithfully,
honestly,
honestly,
and impartially
impartially
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
as a member of the Environmental Commission
as a member of the Environmental Commission
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my abilities,
as I shall answer to God.
as I shall answer to God.
Congratulations. There you go.
Thanks for being slow.
Absolutely. You can sign both of those. Here, I'll take, if you sign both of those, I'll take that back. Lynn's hand.
Oh, Lord.
Come on down, neighbor.
Come on down.
Perfect, thank you. And I'll get this back in here. This one is yours. Here you go.
Oh, thank you.
Hello, neighbor. I, Lynn Tansing,
I, Lynn Tansing,
do hereby swear
do hereby swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution and laws
the Constitution and laws
of the United States of America,
of the United States of America,
the Constitution and laws of the State of Ohio,
the Constitution of the State and laws of Ohio,
the Charter,
the Charter,
ordinances,
ordinances,
and
and
resolutions
resolutions
of the City of Twinsburg,
of
Ohio,
the City of Twinsburg, Ohio,
and will faithfully,
and will faithfully,
honestly, and impartially
honestly, and impartially
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
as a member of the Environmental Commission
as a member of the Environmental Commission
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
as I shall answer to God.
as I shall answer to them.
Congratulations. Also, go ahead and sign right here. I'll sign there. Nice job. And then this is your copy there. And then I will take these and fill these out. Get you all a copy. Congratulations, everyone. Good board. Led by a great man.
I don't know about that.
Led by a man.
Thank you. Thank
How are you?
So our next order of business is to congratulate everyone that was just sworn in, so it's awesome to have you folks. And to know that you applied, you had interest, you met with and you were interviewed by our city council and our mayor to have this important post. It's awesome that you're here today. It's really an honor to work with you.
Thank
today.
you.
Then we have some elections to take place because each commission has a chair and a co-chair. So,
Is there a motion for chairman? Would anybody like to make a motion to be chairman of the Environmental Commission? And you can nominate yourself.
I'd like to make a motion to nominate Chuck Menacci to be the chair of the commission.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion?
Do you want it?
so
You accept?
I will accept, but in all honesty, if there's anyone else that's interested that has ideas to drive this forward that are different, I'm not opposed. You know, I like it, but it's not the, you know, I will still be involved and do the same type of things. It just is not, you know. So if you're interested,
I'm not. I
okay.
just want to make sure you feel good.
I'm definitely interested. You know, I've served on the commission for, I think this is my 4th term on this. So,
Is that why you redid the oath?
So we're appointed for a time period. So we're appointed till 2024.
So your time period is up.
My time period
It's
is
not
up.
that you're new.
Right.
Right.
Okay. So, yeah, that's awesome.
Okay, so, at this time, we'll call the roll. We can do it all at once. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Congratulations, Mr. Bernacci. Is there a motion for vice chair? Vice chair? Vice chair? Motion for that?
I'd like to make a motion to nominate Crystal Davis as
Second.
vice chair.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, perfect. Any discussion on that? All right.
So Crystal brings a myriad of expertise to our community. She also serves on she's on our Jedi Commission, and I think having her as a co-chair will help us bring some of the equity ideas to our environmental communication.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Congratulations. Okay. All right, Mr. Bonacci,
So
run your meeting.
So hopefully everyone received the minutes via email. And for those of us that were here last meeting, the minutes seem to be a nice synopsis of what happened. We had essentially three presentations, one from our city engineering service relating to stormwater management. We had Daisy introduce Sandra to us, and then we had Mr. Clark from Old Mill Road come talk to us about that water plan. And we had a council report and some new business, and that's kind of sums up what we had. So if there's no changes to those minutes, I'd like to have a motion to approve them as they were written.
So moved.
Anyone opposed? Awesome. So
I'm not
minutes,
opposed, but I never got the minutes. Were they just sent out recently?
they were
An hour
emailed.
ago, or?
No. They were emailed to us. And it could have been, there were, maybe,
Okay.
because you weren't appointed. I don't know how that
Did you
really
get 'em?
works.
Did you guys get copies of them?
Yeah.
Well, then that's not that.
Then, did you get a copy of
Did you
them?
look like this?
Yep, that's it.
You did get a copy? Have you received any emails?
Yeah,
So you haven't gotten emails?
Yes.
Okay, so you got, I just want to make sure you use your email. So, okay, perfect.
It was attached to the one that told us to be at the meeting to be sworn in.
okay, maybe I didn't see the attachment.
Okay.
No.
So did you actually approve the minutes?
Yes.
I heard the motion, I just want to make sure it was approved. Okay.
No one objected, so
Okay,
it was approved. And then our next would be presentations and audience participation. I see that we have our largest group ever, right? Pretty much. We've had one that was a comparable size when it was the Boy Scouts talking to us about a water project they were working on. So there's
no sign-in sheet, so I don't know if I've got a sign or anything.
It's actually funny, I just looked for.
I saw you looking
Did you
for
see
it.
me? I just looked for a sign-in sheet. I'll tell you what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do this.
I mean, it's on record, so I don't know if
Yeah, I don't know, but,
David, do you want a piece of plain paper?
I'm just gonna do this right here.
Okay.
Right, so we can just go like this, and then let you use my special pen there. You can write your information down, you're gonna have to speak it anyways, but I know you always want it.
Right.
Official record of it.
Anyways, my name is Mark Zukowski. I live at 2445 Old Mill Road. As you guys probably know about Project Gumbo and the 32 acres of land that was basically destroyed. And then also the watershed that's potentially ready to be destroyed. I guess I'm here today looking to see what our environmental from the city of Twinsburg is going to do to help that. In the middle of my property, I have a stream that continues and splits and cuts the center of my property in half, basically, that comes straight off of Project Gumbo. It's a water-fed stream. It never dries up in the driest days of the summertime, and it flows all the time. Apparently, what Gumbo has proposed is going to completely destroy the stream. There's streams that are in the back that are finger streams that feed this property also, that feed that stream, that are also going to be destroyed by the whole massive size of this project. I mean, I understand the trees were cut down. That's something that should have been addressed, I guess, prior to trees being cut down. I did notice, I was doing a little bit of research, and I sorry I didn't do too much today because I thought the meeting was actually next week, so I didn't prepare 100%. But there is a charter that's out there of 1103.11 that basically says there's a lot of things in here that the Environmental Commission should do prior to what's going on. Object C is the Environmental Commission shall monitor and make written recommendations concerning tree preservation efforts. And I'd like to know if there were any of these done prior to these trees being cut down. I could see clearing land to build a development, which is one thing, but if a development was never planned prior to the development, how are you cutting down 32 acres? I mean, why do that? You know, if they were already approved to build this building, great. Then cut down the trees that they need just to build the building, not cut down 32 acres of trees. I mean, if you guys are an environmental group that's sitting on the board that's trying to do this, what were your recommendations to them? I'm sure nobody will talk, that's fine.
No,
But-
I'll say that I know nothing of the Project Gumbo, and this is my first day on the commission, so what is Project Gumbo? Anyone? I never
Base-
heard of it. What is that?
That's them destroying 32 acres of
32
land.
acres that they wiped out all of the trees.
Right.
And never told a single resident on Old Mill Road.
Strip mine.
To build a building on that spot?
Right, because it's zoned industrial. But there's no other, it abuts resident properties. So there's no other there's industrial that's at the corner of Old Mill Road, but there aren't any down where they're building this. They cleared 32, 33 acres of trees prior to even having any type of plan set in place, or nothing 100%. And then all of a sudden, we don't get into, us as residents don't get any information until it goes to the planning commission, but the planning commission's been talking to the builder for years. So why isn't it brought to our attention what's going on so that we can try to help minimize the destruction of this, or help minimize this before it got to the point where it is right now? Because right now we're at a point where the city's trying to tell us it's too late. It's never too late. But this can't happen. But to destroy the trees, that's done. But to destroy the water, now we're talking streams that are there and everything else. We're not talking, everybody else is on well and septic. So now we have drinking water. They're planning to fill this corner of this property almost 20 feet with fill. That's going to destroy basically all of our water that's going into our water wells. And then who's protecting that? The builder's not going to come in and say, oh, we'll give you free water. You know, right now I have a well that's there, natural spring. It comes up from the ground. So if that dries up, then what happens? I have 4 kids that are at home, plus me and my wife, that have to take showers every day. What do I have to do? Go to a hotel? Who's going to pay for the hotel? Who's going to pay for the water? I mean, it's not just me. This is my neighborhood.
Right.
You know, this is the whole place. Everybody on the street could be affected by it. You know, the studies that they've done from water, geological, and everything else like that, where Steve will tell you more about that because he knows all about it. But it could affect everything. And the information that the city's giving us on any of this is nowhere near accurate to saying that they're protecting any of this.
I have a quick question. So can you tell me more about the outreach to the community, which is something I'm super serious about in my professional life with Alliance of the Great Lakes. And so did they go door to door? Were there town hall meetings? Were there community meetings and then it was not accessible? Can you tell me a little bit about what that process looked like?
There was meetings, but they were for the planning commission, that was it. There was nothing brought
For the
to,
residents?
we can show up, but you would have to watch it every week. Basically, just like how this meeting is. This is once a month, and I thought it was next week, so that's why I'm sorry I was late. But the planning commission meets every other week. So if you don't follow it on there and follow what happens every other week, you have no idea what happens. There's there's no way that you can take, granted, my property butts up to this industrial property. There's no way that they should have done this without notifying residents of this prior, or keeping them informed of what's going on prior to what's happening here. Behind closed doors for over 2 years, the city's been planning this with Skinnell. There's emails that we have and everything else like that. Behind closed doors, they're sitting there and telling Skinnell how to make this work so that we're at the point we are right now. And that's the worst part. Why are you sitting behind closed doors having this conversation? Where are those minutes at? Where are those conversations at? Where can we find those minutes at? And why isn't it brought to us? There's a lot of information that a lot of people on Old Mill have asked for from the city, whether it's records of zoning, whether it's records of whether they got their permits, stuff like that. They've gave us some of the records, they won't give us some other things. Because more than likely, who knows? They might think that we find something that they don't want us to find. You never know that, you know. But my biggest thing is the environment, and that's what you guys are here for.
Right.
So now that's why we're trying to address it a little bit more. I guess you said Lynn Clark was here last week, probably spoke a little bit more about it. But, you know, it's, Dave Post was there. There's streams and there's steady streams that flow there all the time. You know, there's trees that are on the sides of our property line now, after they cut all those trees down, that now are just getting wind damaged. And they're toppling over on my property. So now my property value is decreasing because of something that they did. But in one of your ordinance of 1147, it says something in terms of, I don't have it in front of me, that any project shouldn't destroy the property value of the adjacent property. So if my property value is going down, now what?
That's 1147.
Is it 1147, 1148? There's too many of them. I don't have it in front of me. Like I said, I didn't come here prepared.
So I know that, well, go ahead, I'll let you.
So, that's what I have to say. I tried to send a couple of you emails that I tried to find here and there. I don't know. I sent an email out a while ago about this. I don't think I got any of your emails. It's not publicly posted. But if you guys all want to come to my house, my address is here. My phone number's here. Call and make a meeting and come see what's going to be destroyed if they build this building. You know, because there's going to be no creek. There's going to be no stream. And you could come back and see the trees that are being toppled over because of the wind damage. So, something to think about.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Thank you. So Mark, the ones that I looked at were,
Like I said, I don't have them on me. Other than
Yeah.
the ones I texted, I don't know.
off the top of my head, 1175, 1180.
And I don't even know if they're right. Steve will tell you which ones they were.
Yeah, 1175, 0135, I got copies of from the city. I also got copies of, hold on here. 1181, 01, 03, and 119713 are the ones that you sent me in the text messages the other day.
Yeah, could be.
So I got copies of those, and so let me kind of get you up to speed. For those of you who are not aware, there's land that's there that's zoned industrial. Okay, it's an industrial zone land. It's been owned by them for a long time, and it's been zoned industrial since 1988.
It hasn't been owned by Skinnell for a long time.
No, it's been
It
zoned.
just recently was split by Consolidated, who owned it forever. And they split it, they sold to the clinic in 2010. And the
Okay.
clinic sat on it until 2019 when they sold it to Skinnell.
Okay.
So Skinnell just recently owned it.
Okay, thank you. So Skinnell, but it's been owned by as commercial land for a long time, so thank you for clarification. Industrial. And they did come in last March and clear down all of the trees. When I inquired about that, and I learned about this just as you all learned about this recently, I've just learned about this since the last planning commission meeting is when I started getting involved. And from what I learned when I inquired with the city is that when trees are taken down on private land, they are not required, unfortunately, to report that. So the city is not required to report that. The city is not, the company is not required to report that. If someone's taking a tree down on their private land. So I understand the concern, but I'm saying that's what I was told.
But the city gave them a permit.
The city gave them a permit to do that, so how are you saying that they're not?
But they gave the permit, from what I understand, they're not required to tell the neighbors that trees are being cut down.
There's a 3-mile ordinance that states that everybody within 3 miles of a commercial project needs to be done, needs to be notified.
What I was told is that if there is.
Well, that's what we were all told, I mean.
Well, I'm just going on what I was told.
I know.
Listen, I know I'm not fighting you. You know I'm not fighting you. I'm just going on what I was told. And what I was told is that if there's a variance placed, or they're looking to do something outside the normal parameters or the allowable parameters, then everybody is given that information. And then there's a meeting where they can say, no, we don't want this. So because everything was done in the confines of the law, they were not asking for anything outside of that, they were not required to tell the residents. That's what I was told. So, just talking about what I was told. I mean, it's just like if you cut down a tree on your lot. I mean, you're not required to tell your neighbor. It's just, you're allowed to cut down your tree on your lot, which is what they did. Do I
Cut
agree?
1 or 2 trees down is different.
No.
32.
Again, I don't disagree with you. I'm not disputing any, Mark, I'm not disputing anything you're saying. Listen, I walked around, I understand. I'm not disputing anything you're saying. But that's what happened. And that's what the cause of the frustration is. They cut down every tree, edge to edge. And that's where their frustration is, you didn't even have the plans yet. Why did you cut down every tree? Again, I don't necessarily disagree.
Right, so then in what you just said here, so we go back to the charter or whichever one it is, it's 1103.11.
1183?
1103.11, Environmental Commission. A is for all land uses projects submitted to the Planning Commission, the Environment Commission shall provide conceptual review, preliminary appraisal of site it doesn't say the whole thing, in development of environmentally sensitive areas and provide written recommendation to the Planning Commission. So then again, we're back to the point of, was it ever brought up to the environmental?
I could answer that. This was not. So the
Okay,
first we heard about it was
right. So then we can go through, we can read this whole thing.
Right.
And every single one in here says that there should be a written recommendation of the Planning Commission prior to the site clearing or prior to this being approved from the Planning Commission, which apparently none of this has been done.
Will you forward those to? Or just, well, you don't have to forward those specific.
I just told you, it's
Right,
1103.
but just text me, if you could just.
Right, and half it's cut off, so.
Just text me those ones and so I can copies of those. Because then I can get them
Right.
clean cut and.
Basically, they started and they didn't go through all the junk, all the hurdles.
I understand.
And there's a lot of hurdles that they didn't do. A lot of them were behind closed doors, which is even worse. How are we as residents going to get records of things that were behind closed doors with Scanello owners? I mean, it's just.
Well, do me a favor, just text me those, all the ones you're looking at, if you would. Thanks. Steve, are you speaking?
I'm going to, and so is Mark.
Yeah. Okay.
But, why don't you?
Mark, if you would just put your name down. Sure. Write your name down and address.
David, I have a question.
Yeah.
I have some notes here on this whole situation. And it says the 33-acre property is in the I-2 Limited Industrial Zoning District. What exactly does I-2 Limited Industrial Zoning District mean? What is limited industrial?
Honestly, I'm not 100% sure. We'll find out.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'd like to see the Environmental Commission work a little closer with the Planning Commission on things like this, visit sites and things, especially something of this size. How that got overlooked, I don't know, but that's a shame.
Okay.
But it's even the approval of the new site needs to, in what I sent you, even the approval of the new site needs to be gone through the Environmental Commission before it's done.
Well, I think first of all, I think there's a couple of things. I want to first validate what you're saying to us. We're not here to say that we think that everything happened was right.
Right.
We're not made aware
Yeah.
of this situation. And so it feels like, even as a commissioner, there were some missteps in terms of
Correct.
coordination in the bureaucracy, right? And I've worked in government relations my entire career, and I understand and see how right hand not talking to the left hand ends up impacting
Right.
residents at a very serious level when you talk about water quality.
Right.
So I think that, number one, I have recommendations because I'm going to talk solutions. I mean, we can talk about what's wrong and we can hash it out, or we can talk about what we're prepared to do. I was not made aware of this. Chuck said he was not made aware of this prior to, as you said. Also, I really want to see want to examine the differences between our duties as a charter versus all of the other places where the Environmental Commission is mentioned in code, because there may be some incongruencies there. I mean, when you look at our charter and what our duties are, it's all ceremonial, advisory, but it doesn't get into the nitty-gritty of actually getting involved in these projects, which in other parts of the code apparently it does. And so number one, I would like for, I will commit to working with our city councilman to have conversations about how the Environmental Commission can work more closely with the Planning Commission, or at least to have an initial conversation. I've never met the Planning Commission. And so sitting down, having a conversation about whether it was private property or not, when you wiping out that many acres, there needs to be a conversation and residents need to be. And so we're talking about good faith. Number two, we need to facilitate a community meeting with resources. If there are resources that have not been shared with the community, we need to facilitate getting that. That's a transparency issue. And so we need to make that happen. And then third, I'm in policy realm, but I'm trying to figure out where the impact analysis was. So in order to get a permit, you don't have to submit an impact analysis of the impact that the construction was gonna have on the areas around it, or even to that area. Sometimes you have to submit maps and visioning and things like that, fiscal analysis and impact analysis. So I like to see the issues, the documents that were submitted prior to construction. And so as a commission, we can work with city council to help facilitate those kind of meetings to at least get some greater transparency for sure.
So they did get, the EPA and the Army Corps of Engineers did sign off on this project. And they can probably speak to that probably more at length than I can right now, but Skinnell did go to them, they did come out, well, I don't know if they all came out to the site, but they did get the letter from the EPA and the Army Corps of Engineers approving it. So they did already approve that for that piece of it. I know that there's gonna be a hydrology study done, it's still happening.
We don't know.
Yeah,
See what
well,
tells us.
From what I understand.
Yeah, I'm not gonna refute what you're saying, but.
Right. I can only tell you what I know.
I've been on the phone with the Army Corps of Engineers. I've worked with the Army Corps before. I used to work with Ohio EPA. I worked with the Sullivan County Stormwater Conservation, so we'll talk about that later.
Let's have Mark talk. Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, I'll be brief. Hi, I'm Mark Libertine, 2198 Old Mill Road. My driveway's right across from Sifron's employee driveway. So I'm just here to, I can't add much to what Mark said. Mark has a property that abuts it. I still have a well. My water could be impacted. There's other factors with this whole project, but we're here because the trees are gone, but the water's not. So we're here to raise awareness and have a conversation to make sure you guys understand the magnitude of what can happen here. So if you think about Skinnell, they don't care about the environment at all. If this property was as big as that table, which let's say that's 32 acres, you're going to put a building in that's a small portion of that, or a portion of it, or half of it. Why clear every single tree on that property? What message are they sending you? What message has they already sent us? They don't care about the environment. They're looking to put this fill in to take away these springs that feed these creeks that Mark talked about. David, we invited him out there. David walked the property. We had 2 other councilmen came out and walked the property. I'm going to tell you guys, you all took oaths, and it's a very important position. I'm glad that you're doing it. But, looking at things on paper, reading all the ordinances and checking everything, doing all that you have to do, that is part of your due diligence, right, that you have to do. The biggest thing, though, is you have to come out there and you have to put eyes on it. If you don't do that, I'm going to tell you, you're not doing it justice. Come out there. My information's here. Mark's information's here. Walk the property. See what they're about to do, what they're proposing to do. The trees are gone, but you guys can save the water. And that's what we're here to appeal for you guys to do. Now I'm gonna let Steve talk. So get ready. This is gonna be an education for all of us.
You know? Well, somebody's got here.
So I did drive down Old Mill after Lynn was here last time to look. I'm guessing that your house is the one that it looks like they went right around, kind of like in.
No. Those people are still there, and they're not planning on selling. They love their house, they love Old Mill, they love their property.
Because there was one in particular, it looked
It's
like.
still-
Yeah, that's
they're
Campbell's.
They're building around it. They're putting a semi-drive 15 feet off their property line, right next to his bedroom window. The buildings are basically full built on the side of his property. Whether or not he was offered good money or not for his property, that doesn't mean.
Right.
They're basically destroying it to try to push this guy out.
I'm just trying to get the lay of the land. of what I-
And that guy's in the center of two buildings. The building on the left-hand side is 500,000, what is it, Steve?
300,000.
300,000 square feet. The building that's on the other side is 175,000 square feet. Right where that guy's houses, straight back is 75 semi-truck parking lot. This place is basically going to be paved over all the way, other than 10 feet off the property line all the way around.
And you live across the street from me.
I live on the south side.
Just a little bit down.
And then there's that house that you're talking about. There's another property owner, then Mark's house is there with their retention well, or basin, whatever you want to say, that's flooding his back property. And this water feature, this natural spring that feeds this, and Steve's gonna talk about it, so I won't steal his thunder.
No, it's all right.
You're talking about putting all that either under pavement or under roof. That whole watershed is going to dry up, which doesn't mean anything to Canal. That means everything to our wells, our quality of water, and the environment. And you already saw, they demonstrate to everybody that they don't care. They're gonna do anything they can to take money back to Indiana at the expense of our environment. Walk the property, please, walk the property.
Yeah, it looked like they just like drove monster trucks and had big ruts.
Basically all they did.
Okay. Yeah, I could.
Anyways, Steve Hummel, 2500 Old Mill Road, Hudson, Ohio. I live on the south side of the road, and when they first started clearing trees last February, before they started dropping the trees, I took right up the road. I saw City of Twinsburg truck parked at the CVS parking lot. The city chief engineering inspector, city forester, I think his name's Joe. It is Joe. Anyways, naturally beautiful on the side of the truck. I said you might as well scrub that right off the side of that truck right now. What you guys are getting ready to do. Now this guy's the chief engineering inspector and the city forester. And there's ordinances in chapter Ordinance 1175 about protecting riparian zones. See, it's not just about wiping the trees out. There's riparian zones. That's an upland watershed. There's a lot of small creeks that start running out there. It's fed by springs. It's fed by wetlands. Right then and there, under the city's ordinance, he could have told those guys to get off of that site and not clear along the riparian zones. If I were, I'm not saying if I did anything, I feel that was his job. It's an ordinance. He's the chief engineering inspector. He was a city forester, and nobody told them about riparian zones. Read the code, it's in there. To quantify the code, the city doesn't always quantify things, which in my mind, it makes it easy because you can work around things if you don't quantify. You have to quantify things. How do you define how large a riparian zone should be on a creek? Basically, the county does that, and that's best management practice if you don't put numbers to it in the city code. Then you got to fall back to something that you can actually come to some kind of determination about. For that watershed and that size, the one major creek that At first, they showed the Army Corps they weren't gonna fill it. That should have had at least 150 foot of woods on each side for 350 feet left alone. Right there, I mean, irregardless, you can clear trees all you want, but them riparian zones, according to city code, need to stay left alone. Natural waterways need to leave the natural vegetation on them. Now, a natural waterway doesn't necessarily even mean a perennial flowing stream. It can be intermittent, it can be ephemeral. That's the nature of that topography there. You know, this is when you want to control your problems, not before it gets to Tinker's Creek. See, that's why we got so much flooding. But irregardless of that, that didn't happen. So we can look back at the past and we can say that, but that didn't happen in the past, and that's something that was obviously in the code. You know, so right there, that's the one thing. As far as the watershed going through there, basically they're going to divert. They took 2 stabs at the apple with the Army Corps, and they've been back and forth with the Army Corps. The original fill permit that they were granted didn't give them the right to fill the wetlands down the middle of the creek that feeds Mark's property. After they destroyed everything, they got another fill permit. Army Corps didn't put their boots on the ground too. Just like put your feet on the ground and take a look. Like I said, topo maps are great, but when you actually set your eyes to that place, you know. Sometimes that's the way you need to do it. So, you know, we can argue about did they do the right information for permits. A lot of places don't come out. I'm not knocking them, but it is what it is. It's bureaucracy. And the left hand doesn't know the right hand. When I worked at the Ohio EPA, I made sure I informed all the other agencies, Soil Conservation Service, the US EPA if I needed to, everybody, right down the road. You know, that way you don't have to say, well, we didn't know. We all know. It's important for us all to know. And obviously in this case, we didn't all know. But as far as that watershed, what they're doing right there with their building plan is they're going to take, if I had a chalkboard I could show you, but the sub-watershed that feeds Mark's property, they're going to completely divert all that flow out of that watershed and push it into another watershed to the north where those high tension wires run behind that property. That's a completely different watershed. That's not the watershed that feeds all the way down through Kevin Brown's. It's sick back there. He's got beautiful property. Kevin Brown's got 30-foot waterfall back there where Shaker Day Camp used to be. That's a very beautiful area. Nobody even knows what that is back there. And the study that the Army did, they don't step foot off of that piece of paper that says this is the property lines, and that's not right. You know, if you have 2 boxes of Converse shoes, oops, you know, in other words, somebody tricked you. One had the right foot and one had the left foot in it. Those all go together. It's not like they're not discrete things. You guys are an environmental council. Everything comes together. And by them doing that, diverting the flow from this watershed, you can't do that. That's common law. You can't, and it says in Code 1175, you have to maintain a desirable amount of quantity and quality of surface water and groundwater. Now, I don't even have to crunch a number as an engineer, which I am. I can crunch them and I can do all this and review it, and I am in the middle of that. But I don't even have to crunch the number. And I can see that if you take flow from a watershed and divert it to a completely different watershed and dry up somebody's creek, that does not meet your code. That's pretty simple to me right there. And so that's one of the things. And then on Kevin's property where they're discharging this basin's huge. They've designed it in such a way that I won't, irregardless, I'm reviewing the engineer's work from Scannell. He's making assumptions that I don't think I would make them. When you design they want to completely develop that whole site with Scannell, or Sifron wants to put another building in there. They're building across the street from him, and then these 2 big buildings. This guy's routing all the stormwater from that whole site through the basin that they're putting in the back. But he's not showing that these are all developed areas. So that's a problem. You don't model that way. You have to model it as if it's going to be developed like you say it's going to be developed. So that basin potentially could be too small to handle the flow. And then you're gonna have storms that are overtopping the basin that's way in the back. And the emergency spillway dumps onto Kevin's property. I don't think they got a stormwater easement from Kevin Brown. You know, you have to have a receiving stream to dump your basin in. Now, they might have the ability to dump it into the creek to the north, but there again, that now we're getting deprived in his watershed, and they're adding too much to the other watershed. And the emergency spillway is going right through Kevin's land, and it's just gonna erode away part of his land to find the lowest part back to the creek back there, because they can't get off of their property and do the proper grading to put a channel in. These are all the things that I've noticed just with a courtesy review of the plans. So, I mean, I don't want to belabor this. There are so many issues there, not just the stormwater issue and the groundwater. They're putting, I looked at that site, and the reason they wanted all these fill permits is because it's all underlain by sandstone. It might be hard to rip through that sandstone, crack our aquifer, and then we get contamination in it. That's not good. But so they're not going to do that. What they're doing by getting these fill permits to fill these creeks, they're coming up and they're going to raise that site in spots. In some spots, they're putting 18 feet of fill, depending on where the creeks lie. Now, you know, the creeks cut through and they're deeper, of course. But even in some of the high spots, they're putting 8 feet of fill in, 9 feet of fill. I mean, I did a rough estimate of the fill that they got to put in, and I haven't, you know, hammered this out perfectly, but I did more than the engineer did, because he didn't even mention that they were, you know, going to do fill, and he didn't even do cross sections of the things showing the existing topography and then what they overlay. When you look at that plan view from a bird's eye, he's got them both on there, and people look at that and they don't catch what's going on. You should see cross sections of that so you can see existing terrain, new terrain. There's spots he's coming way up. 100,000 cubic yards, 100,000. What is this fill? It's not coming from the site. They don't have enough cut there to fill from there. Where's it coming from? What's it going to be? What type of soil? Or where is it coming from? You know, is it going to be, we don't know. Could it be contaminated fill they're bringing in? Because you don't know. So that's a potential problem. You know, the Hutchinsons, which live just to the west of Mark, their elevation of their garage floor is at 1062. By the time they fill this up, that building, they got two big buildings there, the one closest to the Hutchinsons, it was at about 1071. By the time they build that up, their floor elevation is going to be 1083. He's at 1062. That is 19 feet above where he was at, where he's sitting and standing in his garage. It used to be, when he looked at this site, there was a slight rise because the creek came down through 6-7 feet. They're going to fill it in, and it's going to be, he's at 1062 standing there. The guy that's working over at that building is going to be at 1083. And then they're going to add 30 foot to that. Now that's a 50-foot change in elevation in there. The code only allows for 30. What, so I can put in 30 feet of fill and then put a 30-foot building on top? You know, but you don't see that because they don't mention that. These are all the things we don't see. You know, we got problems with the light. You know what light does? You know, nighttime's nighttime. We're going to have all these problems. People, I've done a lot of research about light and how it causes diabetes. It screws up your cycles. Nighttime is nighttime. And we should not have to look at lights that look like the sun for a 24/7 facility. No. So that's an environmental issue. Light problems are definitely an environmental issue. All the wildlife that depends on darkness to breed, the insects, all the birds, everything, they're going to scatter. All the noise. I got a 40-acre conservation easement across the street. I have had deer coming in because they relocated them. And hey, I love the animals, but it's out of balance. My property got mowed by the deer this year. I have 60-year-old rhododendrons back there that got scalped. Not that they don't get chewed a little, but not like this. So, I mean, these are all the issues right now. These are all environmental issues and why the balance of the environment should be meaning something. And we're talking about this comprehensive plan of sustainability and all these things. You know, that's not what's going on here. There's no sustainability whatsoever.
Normally it's 5 minutes.
No, I get you. I understand. No, I get you. Well, we all talk. Mark talked a while. You don't want to hear what I got to say. No, David. We're not done yet. I'm not done here. You know what? They spent 2 years, David, behind closed doors, doing this stuff without the people knowing what was going on. We have every right to talk. I could scream and yell obscenities for 3 hours, and I haven't done the damage that they did already. Okay. So I'm not done. There's a lot to be had here.
I understand that. I think it's
No.
more major.
I'm not done with my point yet. This is the problem. These are all good points that I'm making right here. And everybody up here should know that. All good points. See, you cut in on me. I had one thought that was a real crucial thing that I wanted to say, and it skipped my mind, and that's okay. I'll write it down later to you. No, I will. You know what? No. All these ordinances, this is obvious. These ordinances are important. They're getting looked over. Nobody wants to say anything. It's okay. It's not okay. None of this is okay what's going on up there. That's an abuse. And what I was going to say was, oh, it's industrial. It was industrial. Oh, really? Well, guess what? Those of us that live in the township, that was township land back in the 70s and 80s. And guess what? You know how the city was formed and got all their income? From the township. 90% of this area was township land. That was township. The guy wanted to annex in, he annexed. You know what it was zoned? Residential, just like everything else there. So when it got annexed into the city from the township, we lost another bit of our land, our acreage. Okay, good, it's legal, but it was zoned R2. So all this about industrial, and you know why? It did go before the vote of the people in the city. But guess where the vast majority of the people in the city live?
The opposite side of the industrial.
Over here. They didn't even send out notice to these people. The people in the city that live on Old Mill, and there are people in the city that live on Old Mill, they didn't even get notices for different things. I don't even think the city knows that people live on Old Mill that are in the city.
And they don't. Because we call the police department and they say, oh, you live in an old building, you might as well call the sheriff's. And it's, no, we live in the city. It's like, no, we live.
You know, I mean,
back and forth.
yeah, that's all. So yeah, it's industrial.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
How would you like to see this resolved? Like, what's your...
Resolved? You know, they need to, number one, what they need to do is they need to look at the ordinances and see what they can do legally. Number one, that's important. They've already done damage to that property that they shouldn't have done. It's not like, you know, private property, that's fine, but if you were to have that property and come in to, say, log it, loggers would have never clear-cut that site. They would have never destroyed the riparian zones. Even loggers know better than that. I'm not knocking loggers. They manage a forest. They manage. It was completely demolished because they wanted to maximize the site. They shouldn't have got into the riparian zones. So what do you do about that? You know, I told everybody, I don't think that should have been industrial land, but it is what it is. You know, I feel that I told them at the council or at one of the planning commission meetings, they're trying to put 10 pounds of industry in a 6-pound environment. You know, they're trying to squeeze it like it's a postage stamp. Like there's no surroundings, like it's a table, we're just gonna build buildings on the table like a good architect would. That ain't what it is. This is a land, we've got well water, we've got the beauty of the creeks, we got wildlife there. That was all just, that ain't nothing. So to resolve it, yeah, look at the ordinances from the get-go. Like when the guys were in there logging and the city chief inspector didn't even get in there and say, stay out of the riparian zones. I mean, he had the authority to do that, I would imagine. So, yeah, I want the city to uphold their own ordinances, and I shouldn't have to be the one to tell them what ordinances they need to follow. That ain't my job. Yeah, I've got to fight this through, and I will, and I'll have a list of them. And then let the law director figure out what he's going to do with it, because like I told you, 1175, the issue with them diverting that water and keeping a desirable amount going through that creek, that ain't happening. I don't have to say anything else. I'm done. Ding. Go call my attorney, and good for you guys, because you ain't doing that. So how would I like to see it resolved? I don't know. How would you like to see it resolved? How would everybody want to see it resolved?
Is
You
it
know?
possible to revoke the approval for?
It's good for one building back there. I know it's not approved. I'd like the city, see the city buy it, do a trade, give Skinell land over there in Enterprise Parkway. That's what I'd like to see. And then save that land for a fire station, number 3, for the future. It's on the south side of town, and the city had an opportunity to have that land on the south side of town for future use. They could have put some ball fields in there, left it natural, did some educational stuff. You know what I would do? I would get involved with the school system, and I'd get somebody that had an understanding of doing reclamation on riparian zones. This ain't a park. This is about a research with the school system. Get in there, unless it's, you know how long it's going to take to repair that riparian zone? Years, 20 years. They took 300 years away from that. Just of the flora there, not the bedrock and that. 300 years, there were trees in there that were 40-inch diameter trees. The carbon capture, what they did by destroying them 400-year-old or 200-year-old trees, they could put in 1,000 of these, and it only matches one of them trees. Landscaping plan. They just, yeah. You know, do that. That's the proper thing to do. Teach kids to understand what's important, so when they get a job with Skinell, they could tell the big boy and say, hey, listen, we don't mind development, but this is how you do it right. We're all trying to get to this climate change things and this. Everybody. You know, we're smarter than that. People are smarter than that. No, we're not, huh? Baloney. This is ignorance. I'm sorry. You gave me my 15 minutes, and like I said, I should be able to scream for 2 hours here for what you guys did up there. Not you guys. And it wouldn't even come close to what they did.
One other thing, I'm sorry, I should have said something real quick. But, so they destroyed 32 acres of trees. You know how many trees they have to replace? 8 trees per acre. 8 trees per acre. There was probably 250 trees per acre originally. They only had to put 8 trees per acre back, which, well, 165 of them they said that they left. But about 60 of them are laying over because they got uprooted or blown over. Sorry.
And they don't even have room to plant those, like Lynn Mooter said at the planning commission meeting. We're barely trying to squeeze those in, because they don't even got any green space to do anything.
The best recommendation we have is come see the disaster that's and you'll understand it a little bit more.
And the last comment, just to reiterate that point. I mean, you're all on the Environment Commission because I think you have the passion for the environment. That's why you're sitting here. You know, Steve, very passionate. Mark's passionate. We all are in Old Mill because it's our neighborhood. And it's water is one of our primary, obviously, resources that we have to keep. But if you walk that site, you're not gonna hear what we just said. It's gonna be jaw dropping. You have to put eyes on it. Please come out and look at it. You gotta see it for yourself. And then you're gonna say, these crazy guys, they understated what's going on out there. You really will. So please walk the site. We'll provide boots.
So, are you also planning to?
I'm not speaking.
No, okay. I just want to make sure that we heard all the different. We heard a lot.
I apologize for my brusqueness here, but
No, there's not a reason to apologize. I am understanding what.
And you guys are starting to figure out what's going on now. I mean, you're an environmental board, but this is the first time you've had to deal with it where it's abutting a residential property and of something of this magnitude. I mean, it's new to everybody, but then again, if you look through charters and ordinances and everything else like that, to us, it's like, well, the city should never do anything because right here it states that everybody from the city says, no, this can't happen. But it's happening. So how is it? You know,
And I appreciate you guys coming today because the last presentation, it kind of got connected with water management and a construction site that maybe didn't have silt fencing the right way. It was kind of a different, there was passion. I'm not saying that there wasn't passion with law, but it was a different.
So he brought it before everything was submitted into the planning commission. So he didn't know, I don't think he knew, he was just talking about the land being, what happened to the land and why the silt fences weren't up and stuff like that.
And also connected to the stormwater management plan.
Yeah, it was more of a presentation around stormwater management instead of
This.
all of this.
Instead of the rest of
The
it.
stormwater management, I'm sorry, I mean, and I don't want to belabor it. I used to design landfills for a living. And I did a lot of stormwater management, and a lot of erosion control, and a lot of clearing in the woods, and a lot of people in the back countries of Pennsylvania wanting to blow the windows out of the excavators. You know, so I understand is pretty keenly aware of what's going on here. And this management plan is lacking.
So can we, I appreciate all of the comments today because it helped to better inform us of what was happening and where there are opportunities for us to get involved. In our last meeting, we talked about wanting to have a mission statement and knowing where we can dig deep and not have just conversations about neighborhood cleanups. And so I appreciate you bringing this to us so that we can move forward and talk about action. To that note, can we go to commissioner reports so that we can talk about what we're gonna do?
Right. So we usually start on one end.
Okay.
and-
No, I'm just horrified. That's just the simple word I have to say. You know, I'm sitting up here in this company, but what I really want to say, I'm just completely horrified. You know, I'm gonna just tell you, is where I grew up as a kid. Water, most precious commodity. You know, I would have never moved to Ohio except for my wife wanted to move up here, and now I love it. It's beautiful up here, and just to hear, just looking at, you know, it just almost wants to bring tears to me that we would do something like that, and I was pretty surprised. You know, I mean, from a business perspective, I look at all around here. Does it even support? Does that even support it?
The road's not even built for.
No, I'm just saying that there's just not enough business here to even support this. I don't see it.
A lot of vacant industrial area.
That's exactly what I was gonna say when
They want to put these big 32-foot things up. You know, that's the new thing for light industry, these 32-foot prefab things, and it takes.
So I'm gonna learn about it. I always vote no for industry, even for homes. I mean, I've always voted no. I vote no for those things always, because this place is so beautiful that just to hear this was just like, whoa, I was not ready for that one. Thank you.
Lindy,
I would have some input here. A couple things, I'd like to see us all work as a team when these type of things happen, where we are, you know, going to look at property, not just individually, because somebody might have something that they can view and share that might be overseen by someone else. I'd be glad to give you all a copy of my notes here that I've printed out from the internet, from the city site, so you can peruse this, and just a synopsis of basically what's going on here. There's a couple interesting things in here. A sentence that says, it was also noted that Scannell is attempting to buy a 1.1 acre adjacent residential property. Do you guys know who that is?
That's the house that everything's built around.
Okay. And there's a lot of terminology. It's tenant specific. What is that? And we know it's a warehouse, but there's something that's tenant specific too. You know, some of the legalese here is a little bit beyond my reach, but again, you know, it'd be nice for you to look at this and have it right in front of you. The desecration is here in the pictures, and it's sad. When I see stuff like this, it's disheartening. I agree with you guys. I mean, ecosystem is definitely involved here, watershed. So, thank you for your input. You've certainly been a plethora of information and valuable.
Thanks for listening. I mean, like I said, 10 pounds and 6 pounds. The shame of it is if something gets put in there, it's probably gonna have to be scaled back. And I don't know, you know, like I said, I have no idea. But the thing is, all that, like you said, could have been left up front for a buffer. They could have saved so much money moving earth and doing things when they had a natural buffer there. It's disappointing.
Thank you. Virginia, do you have anything?
Yes, thank you to everyone who spoke today. I appreciate you bringing all this to our attention, and definitely would be interested in taking a walk of the property to see what it's like and pursuing some of the things that Crystal mentioned as well. On a lighter note, I'll say the things that the commission has been working on in the past. For Earth Week and month of April, we'll be providing some messages about clean water. Clean water starts at home, and working with Lynn Muter on getting some of those messages out to the residents. Thank you.
Crystal, do you have anything?
Again, I think I've said enough, but just want to talk about coordination. Oh, sorry, I forgot about
Just
that.
make sure they can hear you.
Yeah, for sure. Want to talk about coordination between commissions. Quite honestly, I also serve, like Chuck mentioned, on a Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Commission for a special committee for the city of Twinsburg as well. And that's not an issue that should be siloed either. It's an issue that is relevant to every committee. And so I think at some point it warrants a conversation about how all of the committees can be brought together to talk about synergies in our work and where there's some overlap and how we need to have some type of frequency of meetings as well. And then I'd also like to immediately following this, go ahead and schedule a site visit and get that on the books, and we can walk away knowing what date and time we're gonna go out there. That's it.
I would just echo the word that was used over there, horrified. I feel as angry as you. I didn't know anything about this, and I think it's awful. And I'm wondering if they didn't follow all the protocols that were required, if we can, like I just said, revoke the approval for any further development. I don't know if that's feasible, but that's kind of what I would lean towards.
So I was prepared to give like a glitzy, this is what we have coming up. It's not appropriate.
Ruined your speech.
No,
You can still do that. You can do both.
So, yeah, I did drive through there to try to get an idea of what it was. I didn't get out of my car, I'll admit that part. Walking the property from what I saw, it seemed like it would be impossible to walk upon because it looked like it was so rutted up and roots and trees, stuff, and
It's still bad.
I lack the vocabulary to describe it. But even from the road, stopping the car to look at it, you know that there doesn't appear to be care put into whatever they did. And learning that the water that you guys drink and use for your house, I'm trusting you. You know, I'm blind. I haven't looked at any of the documents, but is going to be diverted completely away from where it was going before, and that impact of not having that source. Like the whole idea of like living on a decent piece of land where you have a well is this idea of like American self-sufficiency. And to have that threatened. We don't know if it's going away. It's threatened, and there's uncertainty to it, right? And to know that, you know, the seat that I have has a piece of this piece. I don't know how big of a piece. So, because the way I've read our engagement and our role is to be an advisor to council and to be brought in at times when things were had a significant impact to the environment. Now, we didn't know that there was a significant impact. We didn't know there were creeks there and streams. Okay? Bad on me for not knowing where all the creeks and streams are. But it's a little disappointing that we were, in the seats that we have, we meet 6 times a year. 3 meetings in the spring, 3 meetings in the fall, and we weren't, the big concerns that were brought to us were different concerns. And then you guys come here and you want answers, and I don't know if we'll look, we'll advise, and we'll attempt to help. Is that fair? That's the.
We're just trying to make everybody in the city here aware of what's going on, because apparently, just like you guys, nobody has any clue on what's going on. Because basically, the council or the planning commission was gonna push this underneath the table. If none of us found out about it or said anything, it had already been a done deal. Nothing we can do. Nobody was able to do anything.
Can we schedule a walkthrough, because, I don't go over to that part of the town usually, and like,
Over anytime, I'll just.
I'd like to, all of us to go as a team to see, and somebody like you can show us, because, means I would never go off into anybody's property.
We can accommodate any time that works for you guys. Between the 3 of us, we'll all be there, and you guys figure out what works for you, and we'll
You give us a date and time, and we'll be there.
Yeah, usually Sundays work
I
for
know
me.
most of us
Can we do
work.
this? Can we do this?
Yes, sir.
Why don't you guys get together and talk? That's what I'm doing right now, because it's gonna be a lot of figuring it out.
Okay.
Working out. And Chuck, why don't you get to me, and then after you guys come up with the date and time, let me know. I've got Mark's number, and Mark's number, and we'll schedule it that way.
Either that or give you my info, you go with me, either way.
Yeah, well, I probably will too.
There's a merit of everything that we do together, and there's a piece of it that, because I might see something and describe it differently than somebody else, and I might not articulate what is really your concerns.
It's easier sometimes when it's more one-on-one than if it's a group. We had a group the other day, it was a little bit harder to kind of tell everybody what was going on. So, either way, however you want to do it.
So, the things that we have scheduled is we have a community cleanup that's going to meet at the parks, and we're going to focus on the community parks. That information was pushed out through Parks and Rec to the schools, and we'll get some other things out for that, but that'll be the April 23rd, the Saturday after Earth Day. We'll meet at Liberty Park South, which is the Liberty Park with the ball fields and the picnic pavilion. And the service department will give us gloves and bags, and hopefully we have a decent amount of volunteers. And we go get, clean up the walking trails and those little community parks.
I've run over there, it's pretty clean already.
So
Isn't it?
that park, that's where we're gonna meet.
Okay.
But as people come, we're gonna deploy to different areas. In the past, we did on the sides of the roads, and it's just terrifying to be on the side of the road, especially when you have like kids. So mainly, like the walking areas, and then the little parks that are like in the neighborhoods with the swing sets and that, they get a lot of litter. Okay. Then June 25th, I think, is our document shred.
25th.
23rd?
25th.
25th. That'll be at Service Department.
Is that free?
That's free. It'll be
You just pay $12.
It'll be 6 boxes per household, residential document shredding. It's not intended for businesses. Okay? So those are the 2 things we have scheduled coming up.
And then the e-waste will be in.
E-waste will be in August, hopefully.
E-waste, okay. That means
The commission
computers,
attends those
right?
events?
Yes, we
Okay.
typically attend those, and our primary thing is to help get things organized and to really distribute information that relates to stormwater management, which is given to us by Summit Soil and Water, to have like a piggyback a thing onto community outreach. Basically, our responsibility for like the e-waste and that kind of stuff. But this is, we have a new thing. We're gonna get a date and we'll get it to you guys, and we'll all be there. Okay? So that's what we have. David, do you have anything from council's perspective?
Not too much, but first off, I want to pass this out, congratulate you all one more time, and say welcome. I think you're all going to do a great job Here's Lynn.
I don't want that vice chair no more.
Chuck, I understand we have you to thank for putting us in our sewer bills?
So that came, the sewer bill communication with what's acceptable for recycling, and this is a key part for the community, is like what's acceptable, what's not acceptable, because you could end up tainting the truck and then the whole thing goes to landfill, was part of the new contract that they had with Waste Management, to have a consistent message of what Waste Management will recycle. So that went out with every sewer bill that's paper.
Which facility does that go to, Chuck?
So if you don't get the sewer bill, the information's posted on the city's website. And there's also gonna be a mailer separate from the sewer bill. It's probably gonna be the postcards.
Or if you have a Hudson mailing address. So this is going back to living in the city of Twinsburg, but Hudson mailing address.
So if you're, I would
No
think if you're a
sewage.
customer of the Waste Management, like if you're on their route, they're gonna get your. Okay.
I also want to say I will find out about the I-2 specifically. I will find out more specifically where the environmental commission is intermixed with the city and what our, not just doing the fun glitzy things, right? I will find that out as well, where we are actually written in code. I do want to thank you all again for coming out here. I have seen it, I understand. I can tell you that I'm asking a lot of questions. I know I talked to Mark again, I'm asking a lot of questions. I reached out to the law director today about ordinances again. I will hear from him at some point. But as we said at the council meeting, we hear you, we understand, we're not fighting anything you're saying. We are doing everything we can. But at the end of the day, it's all about what the law says. And so we are, and that's very important. So, you know, as I told you in conversation, in my email, I have to defer to the law director to look through the legal documents and decide what is legally correct. And so, again, we hear you. You're not ignoring anyone. And I think it's great that you're touching base on all aspects of the city. Everything. Yeah.
Just, you know, you turn the ordinance over to the law director, okay, say, does it fit the ordinance? Now, the law director has a skill set, and, you know, I mean, he's an attorney, he's got a skill set, but he's not versed in hydrology, so to speak.
Right.
So, you know, how does he make a determination about it? He feels that, I guess what I'm saying is, how can he say from a standpoint of, like what I just said, now somebody can refute me that has the skill set I have about the diversion of the water at the quantity that's desirable, that's an ordinance. Him personally, I don't think, has the skill set to be able to look at a set of plans, make that determination. So, you know, I'm just wondering, how does he come to that point when it's based on technical matters, like was brought up at one of these other meetings when an attorney came in and she said, the first thing I do is I ask a judge that I need a forensic pathologist, and he grants it because I'm not a forensic pathologist and I can't make that determination. So, I mean, those are just some of the things, because some of these issues that we're questioning on some of these ordinances, they're somewhat technical in nature, you know, and so, that's just my thought, that's just me throwing that out there.
I'm not asking them to make any plans, I'm asking them to decipher the code. So the plans is Lynn Muter, who is certified, and again, you've worked with Lynn. I'm just looking at the code that we're discussing. And that is his forte that he's done for his career, working with cities. It's, you know, he's done that his whole career. So that's what I'm asking to look at. So.
I would say to Steve's point, you know, the attorney is interpreting the code, right, and understanding the law. But behind the ordinances are the environmental factors. So it probably wouldn't be out of your abilities here as a commission to say, maybe we need expert reports that the law director can use to, he understands the law, but he doesn't understand what these ordinances exactly, what's entailed, in it. So I think I would want an expert that the commission would say, probably, that's a reasonable step to take to make sure that we're interpreting the law correctly based on the science. I don't know, I think we're all really questionable about how much that was done, if at all. So, there's a law and there's a science about this. I think it's within this commission's probably authority to at least recommend get actual studies done.
So I had a question to ask. I'm reading through last March 1st, and there's this gentleman, Lynn Clark. Is he a resident, or is he?
He's a resident on Old Mill Road.
Okay. So he seems like who would have the technical expertise, because he is a PE and, he has hydrology, and would somebody like that be suffice for some, means, I agree with you, Steve.
I think you need someone impartial.
Yeah, okay, so whoever, I agree. It means if he lives there, impartial, but somebody like that, the city should get.
Sure, you need someone qualified, but I
Yeah.
would say that someone either connected with the city or resident, someone totally impartial would have to do it. Not
Yeah, no, you'll have to hire somebody for it.
who has no interest whatsoever.
There's no conflict of work. Like, nobody, you couldn't use the county engineer, or you couldn't use somebody that would consult with the county. You'd have to get I feel you would have to get a completely unbiased opinion on that.
And the other things I had is that, I mentioned a mission statement at one meeting. Shannon told me to hold off that they're looking to write all kinds of stuff on every commission currently, and then maybe use that as a starting point to then create from there. So she said, that. And then they're working right now, they always have a person, and I don't know, this was before I was here. Someone that the environmental commission worked with. You probably know, who was it in the city that you worked with? You've been on for a long time.
When I first joined the commission, it was Lynn.
Wastewater, wasn't it?
It was Lynn, and then it was Simone
Was it wastewater?
from the service department, is where I would send, for our invoices to pay for things, and
Well, they're looking for the city liaison to work with the
Okay.
environmental commission. They're working on getting that person again that they used to have. And we're trying to figure it out right now for us. So when we say, all right, we want to do Earth Day on this day, we want to do this. Okay, we talk about, well, who are we working with the city to make that happen from the city aspect, right? And so that's the communication that needs to be happening there. And so I guess I'll start with the first one. June 25th is, Earth Day is in April.
April 23rd.
June 23rd. So beyond just putting it out to, let's say, on a website, who are we working with in the city?
So I
I
met
just want to make
with,
sure that is happening.
I chatted with Jennifer, and I met with, I can't remember her first name right now, it's with an N, she's Jennifer's assistant. In recreation service.
Right.
So recreation, perfect. And then.
I just want to make sure that.
And then I talked
you
with
can
Ski
contact, that's all,
about
make sure.
the materials, the gloves and the bags
Okay.
from service.
Okay. I just want to make sure that I'm just not aware, I just want to make sure that's happening. That communication's happening, let us know what else we need to do to make sure that day runs.
And then
That's all I have.
from the, for the documents writing, that was all through Simone. And then again, I worked with Ski to have the manpower pool, the cones.
Right, sure. Well, they're working on finding that liaison currently. We'll have that person soon, and we can just make sure it happens.
Yeah, because it had been, it used to just be Lynn.
Okay.
And then
Yeah, I don't know. So, but they're gonna find that person, and when they do, we'll be able to have better communication, which is half the battle.
Thank you.
So, all right, that's all I have, thank you.
Okay.
That was enough.
I don't remember, we don't have any unfinished business from last month. Do we have any new business?
I have just a question. Where does this Murph's recycling place, where does it go to? Does it go to Akron?
So our recycling program.
Yeah, where does it, the waste management, where does it take it for sorting?
It has a sorting center in Oakwood.
Oakwood.
And Oakwood Village, they,
Okay.
runs along 271 is where they, so we're not part of the Summit Waste
Okay.
program. We're not, so it gets kind of confusing because there are essentially like the city program, which is the residential waste pickup. The curbside program is what that mailer focuses on.
No, I'm just because a lot.
Condos, apartments and businesses have a different program because they contract with the waste hauler. So our thing is through Waste Management and their sorting centers in Oakwood.
Okay. Have we gotten a?
Well, any if you're a private business, you can contract with whatever one you want. There's 4 or 5 different waste haulers. The township, I think, is contracted through Kimball. So it gets confusing because, like in the Twinsburg community, it's more than just the city. So some of the concerns for waste hauling and recycling, the messaging gets confusing, and that's why Waste Management.
So my question is this specifically is, can you get a report from Waste Management based on neighborhoods where the most contamination comes from? They should be able to provide that.
I know in the service department, they get a report on total tonnage.
So your goal is to find out.
Where the problem is.
Which, for example, which ward?
Yes, which ward, where is it?
And the goal of having that information is to.
Then you know where your problem areas are, correct?
Well,
and
I'm only speculating that there are probably problems in every area.
Okay, and then
if we're going to educate, I think we should educate everybody.
No, I'm not disagreeing with you, but you're going to find more problems in certain areas, and that's what I'm trying because these guys, their business model is based on because they're making money off this, correct? That's what they're doing. And so the more contamination they have, the more money they lose on that area. So that then the pricing for the whole, city goes up based on that. Just a thought.
I will ask. I will inquire. I'm guessing that's going to be hard to quantify.
Okay.
Because all of it gets dumped and the trucks are coming from all parts of the city at the same time, going back to the dump site. I can certainly ask.
Well, just so that you know, like, one of the companies that I work for makes fuel out of that, out of the materials. And so one of the biggest problems they have is contamination. So you just don't go into certain neighborhoods and get stuff from them, just so that you know.
What kind of contamination are you referring to?
Anything like, and batteries or anything like that.
If you put your recyclable stuff in a bag, the whole truck, I was told, is not going to be recycled. And there are still people, even after this was sent out in my neighborhood, who bag everything. And I've never seen the waste management company put one of those stickers on that say, hey, you're not doing this right, just to give them a heads up. So one of the reasons I joined this commission was because I hate the waste management here. Not that they're not awesome, they give you 2 huge things to put all your trash, they pick everything up, but that's the problem. It's not allowing people the opportunity to make better choices. So I would love to, however we can put that on our agenda. We have 3 years to figure out a way to do it better. We have a 3-year contract, so.
This is the first time since that mailer didn't put it in a white garbage bag. Because I didn't know.
And
I mean, you don't know what you'll know.
cares and it's,
I mean, you don't know what you don't know. I saw that, I'm like, oh,
Whoops.
didn't know.
Was that your house that passed the other day?
It went.
I
But
think there's nuance to how that's done though, because I know in Akron you put something on your recycle bin to say, a slap on the hand, you did it wrong. And after 2 times you get fined, or I don't know what it is, but
Exactly.
it's to the point where people are like, no, I'm not gonna recycle because I don't know if this list changes. What's recyclable changes.
Well, and this is doing it, Kimball, and it's not waste management. so
Right, and so
It's confusing,
with
and
that, people are
it's
like,
hard.
well, what's the point? I'd rather just throw everything in the trash and I'm not gonna get fined or have to worry about it.
I have a
What's the
question.
deterrent?
The blue recycle bags that they sell, the blue recycled garbage bags.
The sheet plastic of any kind.
No, I understand that, but isn't that deceiving them? Where you have a blue garbage bag with your recyclables, but then you throw that in the recycle bin, it's all contaminated.
But some programs require it to be in a blue bag. Some of the municipal ran recycling programs for whatever reason,
So it depends on the community.
it depends on the community.
Okay.
And it depends, so from the community, then it depends what they contracted with and how the sorting equipment works at the,
But our particular company says,
our particular
Okay.
company. No.
I'll tell you, I thought that sheet was great.
I'd like to see the next flyer that comes out expound a little bit on non-recyclable plastic and educate our people on that, because they're throwing in plastics that are not recyclable. So I'm surprised they didn't drill into that a little bit more and explain the numbers and symbols. Well,
Most of
people
your-
just don't want to go through the,
Some of those numbers and symbols are arbitrary, that's why. It doesn't matter, like, if you have a 3 on your croissant container, you can recycle it, and if you don't, some of that does not apply. We've been working on solid waste in Cuyahoga County.
So we have some new business that relates to how we better communicate recyclable material. And we can have a motion to excuse our absent members.
I'm looking here right now. I think it might still be Peter. I think it might still be Peter. I'm looking at this here, the 2022 list. It also says James Schaefer. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I have a list of 8 people here. Unless I'm wrong. Let's go with Peter Plato and James Schaefer, just to be safe.
Make a motion to excuse those members. Anyone second?
second?
No one's opposed, they're excused. Our next meeting will be May 3rd at 7 PM, and we're adjourning at 8:30.